The last news of 2021, which should be fun because we're all half drunk, or maybe more than half drunk. We just got finished recording our Christmas episode, which will be posted later this week. Keep an eye out for that. Gabby is with us today. Welcome back, Gabby.
Hello.
Dr. Mike is here, back from vacation, I guess, for this week.
I'm tanned and beautiful as always.
Well, tanned anyway. And Josh, any pithy remarks to start us off with?
Coconut husk.
Okay, think about it. Plenty to talk about this week, Dr. Mike. First of all, can I acknowledge my epic bad timing last week? We were talking about smog, and I think my quote was something like, "Nobody's talking about smog anymore." And sure enough, which I have to say was true at the time, but sure enough, the day after we posted, we get our worst smog day like ever. Tuesday of last week, Dr. Mike, Krakow was literally number one on the planet when it came to dirty, filthy air. You know, there's places in Asia, sorry, no offense, Asia, but there's places where they like burn mountains of cow dung and stuff like that. And, you know, factories spit God knows what right into the air. We were worse than they were when it came to particulate matter.
I would like to say that we were worse only because those places were doing a lot better. That's how it is. That's how statistics work. It's like Krakow was shitty as always, but those places were doing a lot better. So in that kind of way, gradient that you rate cities, Krakow was doing worse.
So we were number one in like one of the worst metrics possible for public health.
It was pretty disastrous.
There were like the government. Did you guys get those SMSs?
Yeah,
telling you to
RCB.
stay inside, like unless you have some urgent need to go outside. I mean, how pathetic is that?
Do you know what I did? I cycled to work in it. It was not a good idea, guys.
Did you feel
For
kind of
those
like
listening? If you think, it's just smog, who cares? Do not cycle in smog. Do not go for a run in it. I got to the place of work where I was cycling to, and it was just
even those like dire industrial cities in
horrid.
China that are notorious for their air quality. We were worse than they were for that one
horrid.
day.
But they were easier than most days of the year. Basically, they were not doing anything that time. That's why the statistics were kind of
Why do you keep kind of undercutting me, Mike? It seems like you're trying to spin this in a good way.
Great,
we were
man.
number
Smog's
one, but it
great.
wasn't really that bad. Is that your point?
No, it's shitty either way. It's just I think we need to make people understand that the reason Krakow was so obnoxious that day was because other cities were less obnoxious.
So okay, well, can we just cut to the we cut to the meat and potatoes here? How many people died?
0.
my lungs died that day.
But so, Dr. Mike, your point is that, yeah, it was awful, but the other places that are usually more awful weren't as awful, so that's why we crept into the top spot.
Well, I think that's a very reasonable point.
Come on.
That's how statistics work.
Let's
let me throw
to the bottom.
Let me throw this
That's
at you. Continuing on the same topic of smog, on Tuesday we learned that the Krakow airport was partially shut down because some of the planes could not take off in the morning, not because of fog, but because of the smog, which I guess technically isn't fog part of smog.
Well, it's a kind of concatenation of fog and smoke.
But the air was so bad the goddamn planes couldn't take off. How's that for your theory, Dr. Mike?
For me, it's like, why does that make taking off complicated? It's like, well,
it's landing that's the problem, actually.
I understand, but like taking off is like, well, does the sky move places? You don't really need to. It's like you're rolling down the runway and going up, so you don't really need to see. It's not like there's some obstruction in the way.
Mike, I think you're forgetting that in order for planes to take off, they have to land first. Like, you need the planes there in order to take off. So if you don't have planes landing, then they won't be taking off.
But a lot of those planes have landed the night before or earlier.
No, not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but we're talking about...
Not in Krakow, especially because the way that the airports work, they need to have like a central hub. Like, for example, Lufthansa have their hubs in Munich, I believe.
Yes, but like when it comes to Krakow Airport, it's Ryanair and Wizz Air that has a mini hub here, and a lot of the flights that were blocked were the morning flights, which were not the ones that were flying in, but the ones that could have taken off. For some reason, they couldn't take off because, I don't know...
Regulations, isn't it?
Wait a minute, Dr. Mike, let me throw this at you as well. Another reason why we have this problem in Krakow from time to time at the airport for both landings and takeoffs is that there's a system called ILS. I forgot to check what it stands for. I couldn't be bothered. ILS something. It's the system.
Something landing system. I would wager.
Oh, there you go. That sounds right. It's the system, the technology that assists the tower in making decisions about how to route traffic. Apparently, for whatever reason, Krakow has the same system that they have in like the Congo and Haiti or something like that. I don't know. Oh, ouch, Josh, that's harsh. Anyway, minimum visibility. They have to be able to see 125 meters, otherwise they can't land.
Actually, it's
800.
It's 800.
But
yeah.
did I get it reversed?
Yeah, because I read the article and it is.
Well, I read it too. I'm looking at it now, but I thought the system allowed for up to 8. Wait, smaller.
Okay, so the existing system is good for visibility down to 800
like
meters.
eyeball visibility without aided by technology.
The system that they want to introduce, and which we're going to expand on the story as why it hasn't yet been introduced, will allow takeoff and landing to proceed when visibility is down to 120
125. 125. Sorry, I just got to reverse.
I'm sorry, I got that wrong. Maybe I didn't read the article.
Speaking means basically flying blind. As long as the instruments or everything is coordinated, you can't land at an airport without seeing the runway. Technologically speaking, that's quite easy. But unfortunately, Krakow Airport, for some reason, has not updated this system over the last 20 years.
I'll tell you why it hasn't updated the system over 20 years. The first time I came to Krakow 15 years ago, 10 years ago I moved here. So 15 years ago when I came to Krakow for the first time, there were 2 terminals at Krakow Airport. Who remembers the days of 2 terminals at Krakow Airport?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
In and out.
So do you remember Terminal 1? Terminal 1 was for domestic flights. How did that look? It looked like a goddamn barn. It was
wasn't it?
A barn.
Yeah.
It was basically you
like
go
a military barracks kind of thing.
Exactly. It was a military barracks.
Nobody remembers that the airport is actually on military grounds.
It is. It's a military airport. So Terminal 2, 10 years ago, was not much better than the barn.
It's awful.
Not much better than the barn. There were about, 2 cafes and 1 place to eat. And you'd land and you'd come out and
Pick out the chickens you want to eat.
There'd be like 1 carousel that was ancient. And in only 15 years, we've got this huge building that's got multiple shops, multiple cafes, and a runway, I guess, that doesn't work for the tourism.
Actually,
it doesn't work for the tourism. Like, the expansion in 15 years for one airport has been ridiculous. It's a ridiculous expansion plan.
Well, the runway, everything except this visibility system that allows.
Because they're expensive. It's expensive.
We have more cafes.
Well,
so what?
No, look, but there's another issue here because you talk about the runway. The runway is exactly the same runway as it has always been. Way back since it was just a military airfield. And the issue is, because I did actually read the article that John linked to, is that there are plans to upgrade the runway, extend the runway, improve the runway. And the idea is that, and I'm sure there are very easily explained technical reasons why they are holding off on implementing this new system until they build a new runway, possibly perhaps because they have to bury sensors and shit underneath the surface of the runway.
Not a cheap endeavour.
There is, the plans are in place. But of course, there are other people who are not so enthusiastic about the idea of an improved new runway at Belica Airport. These may or may not be connected to people who live immediately in the vicinity of Belica.
Yeah, they're always complaining about
it. And so we have a classic kind of,
Mexican standoff.
Technological, bureaucratic nightmare.
An airport, and now are complaining about the fact that it's near an airport.
I live near Belica, and I did notice that on Tuesday, it was very quiet. I got a line. I heard the trains going. I did not hear the planes going. But you know what? I live near the airport. I quite like watching the planes land. You download your application, Flight Radar, whatever it is. You see where they're coming from. You're like like a train spotter. So I'm a glorified train spotter at this point.
Well, there's this classic troll question in the UK, which is like, what on earth possessed the royal family to build Windsor Castle so close to Heathrow Airport? And
what's the answer?
Well, one came before the other, I think.
Yeah. But you knew that, yeah.
I hope. Just quickly, Gabby, Gabby, you do live quite close to the airport.
I do, yes.
Like, in terms of like the day-to-day noise, do you just get used to it, or it kind of becomes background noise?
It's not that bad at the moment. I think if there was a second, because I used to live near Heathrow as well when I was in the UK.
Well, you have an airport thing, don't you?
That was something about
you like the
big.
thrust.
I do, yeah.
You're like a landing strip.
I do, yeah. All of those things, I love
Clean
it.
it out just that
Too
line
easy.
stuff, yeah.
Too easy.
Any more puns before we move on?
No. Let's move on.
Would you like to know the answer? Why would
yeah.
you do the airports?
Yeah.
Was there a question?
No, let's pretend there wasn't a question. Let's move on.
Let's move on, folks.
Here's something we covered a couple of months ago when it was first proposed. It's a series of drastically increased fines and penalties for various road and traffic offenses.
Oh, yes.
Good.
They come into effect on January 1st. Now the maximum fine for certain offenses can be 30,000 zlotys, which is, wow, it's a lot. Previously, the max, I think, was only 5,000 for like even the worst cases. But
Yeah, that's what Tusk got done with, wasn't it?
I'm pretty sure at the time, guys, we agreed that, yes, these increased penalties and fines are necessary, but at the same time, no, they're probably not going to make a difference to Poland's horrible road safety record. I think that was our agreement.
I think the way that they've been implemented and the specific rules that they've been kind of the new rules are going to be like pedestrian friendly, so it probably is going to make a difference actually, because a lot of them are about overtaking on pedestrian crossings, or not stopping at pedestrian crossings, or not stopping when a disabled persons want to cross the road, which, by the way, if you're a disabled person in Poland, you can cross the road wherever you like. You don't actually have to use a pedestrian crossing.
But it has to be visible that you are a disabled person.
You need
so,
to,
like, the white cane or
a wheelchair or something.
Yeah, and presumably you have to have the ability to cross the road.
But either way,
or inability to.
Either way, it puts the onus on the driver to drive sensibly. And to be honest, 30,000 zloty is probably a good thing. Like, do you know what? I don't like cars.
That's a lot. That's really a lot, though.
It is a lot. Good.
I
Don't kill
understand.
people.
For me, it's a little excessive. I mean, it's just. I mean, you shouldn't be killing people anyway, so it doesn't matter how much the fine is.
No. But if you shouldn't be killing people, you might as well just.
You know what, Gabby? Maybe you're right. You say that it could help situations where drivers fail to give the right of way to pedestrians and crosswalks. And okay, you know what? Actually, that kind of makes sense. Maybe drivers will be more aware of it and be better about it. Although generally speaking, I have to say Polish drivers,
they've got better.
They've got a lot better. But I think the extreme cases where the people do 200 kilometers an hour on the autostrada or overtake where they shouldn't, these are impulsive, stupid things done by people who are not going to be deterred by increases. Actually, they're probably not even aware that this increase is taking place.
Exactly. And the thing is, 200 kilometers on the autostrada,
I think
it's a lot. I think it's fine as well. Actually, I think autostradas and the way that, shall we call them motorways?
Highways, freeways.
Motorways.
All right, fine, motorways.
Whatever. Let's call them a name. Whatever takes place on these very high velocity roads,
right,
shall we put it, is down to the drivers, and it's up to the drivers to be aware of it. If you're a pedestrian, you're definitely not protected by a metal shell. And quite rightly, I think that these new rules are affecting the drivers who are in control of the big metal box that's going to run the person who isn't in a big metal box over and possibly damage them.
Well, we know because we've discussed this already. I mean, really, this is less about the motorways, the autostradas, if you like, because, I mean, these are high-speed roads occupied by people travelling at high speeds. There are no pedestrians there. It's a kind of a condition for the being named as a motorway. I mean, of course, there are these like dual carriageway roads where you do get pedestrians, but they have lower speed limits. But the real issue, as we discussed quite recently, are this vast network of single carriageway roads, like what in England we would call like A roads, or minor A roads, that link just about every major town, city, village, or whatever. And large stretches of them have double white lines down the middle, which mean no overtaking. And they're there for a reason, because visibility is not good enough to guarantee that you're going to be safe to overtake. But nevertheless, all the time people do overtake. And, one of the great tragedies of the awful carnage on the roads in this country is that you can be driving perfectly safely and perfectly legally on your side of the road within the speed limit. And you go around a corner and there is some jerk in an Audi or a BMW on your side of the road at 200 kilometers an hour, because he can't, and it is nearly always a he, he can't.
Nah, not a Kia. Those are good people.
He can't wait until a safe opportunity to overtake, and just believes that there's not that much traffic. So and that is your life over.
Absolutely. If you haven't listened to our show before, we often make the point, the very valid, accurate point, that the vast majority of serious accidents in this country are caused by people driving older BMWs or newer Audis. It's just a fact. Sorry, it's backed up by the death toll science.
And there's one more nice thing about this law.
Yeah.
The new laws which come in, which is that the terms, like when the points come in. So previously, the points would come in from when you got the fine. Now the points come in from when you pay the fine.
Yes, that is terrific.
And also,
Interesting.
the maximum points go up from 10 to 15. So,
Well, we're in a position now, I mean, starting January
that's a good
1st.
thing. It's a good thing because what used to happen was that people would take it to court, you know.
Or to delay it, yeah.
To delay it.
Yeah.
So that option of delay is no longer really possible because you'd be given the fine and you go, I contest this fine, and whether or not it would go to court, if you take it to court, by the time it got to court, that year would be over.
There was also another measure which I thought was particularly interesting and something slightly unexpected, or I'd never really considered, and that is that culprits will be required to pay into a pension for the victims or the families of victims.
People they kill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that being forced.
I mean, no, I'm not sure either. And I mean, one wonders exactly how it's going to work in practice as well.
One wonders why you pay insurance as well.
Yeah, that's kind of complicated. I mean, I understand the thirst for vengeance and revenge and the basic human impulse, but in terms of how you make that work legally and practically...
Well, okay, here's the
that's a tough
thing.
one.
Talking about insurance, I mean, I have no idea how it works in this country, although I wouldn't be surprised if it's along similar lines. But in the UK, one of the reasons why car insurance is very expensive is because all insurance providers in the UK are bound by law to have a fund to cover all of those instances of uninsured drivers and, you know, the various sums of money involved. And the very interesting and seldom publicised fact is, of course, that the vast majority of, shall we say, egregious breaches of motoring law are done by people who are uninsured, unlicensed, and probably driving a car that doesn't belong to them.
Right. And they get subsidized by the people who do follow the rules and do pay their bills and
actually,
do have
of course,
insurance.
We do need that to be the case because you would not want to be uncompensated if you were
well, we're in a position to run an interesting experiment. You know, these rules are coming into effect January 1st, as I said, and so a year from now, we'll be in a position to compare statistics.
We'll see what happens.
Does Poland's awful record on the roads improve because of this or not? So we'll see what happens.
Can I take a pop poll of the room? Does anyone think this is
like a Pol Pot?
Yes, kind of, but in this room. So, does anyone think that this is a bad thing? These rules, are they bad?
I think the intentions
are
are good. I don't know if it's going to work. I think the intentions
road to hell. Highway to hell.
Da-na-na.
Paved with good intentions.
Da-na-na. All right, let's move on to here's an interesting story that's kind of a side story to the main story.
Well,
Yes,
that'll make a change.
Exactly. We all know about the mess on the eastern border with Belarus, but last week we learned that strangely, and I don't know what's going on here, strangely, a rather sizable team was 140, I forgot exactly how many, 140 engineers from Britain, actually more specifically the British Army, are coming here to help the Polish Army with their border, kind of reinforcing the physical border, the fence basically, with Belarus. Guys, this is weird. This is not an EU thing, obviously, with Britain out of the EU. So does that make it a NATO thing? Does that make it just a friendly ally thing?
Does it make it a UK showing their military might thing?
I don't know. And also, Dr. Mike, before I turn it over to you, as useless and laughable as it is, there is an EU frontier agency called Frontex that's supposed to be responsible for this kind of thing.
Is that the delivery company? Where
are they in all of this? And just politically, how is this making sense?
No, I think this is a terrific kind of like opportunity by the British government to kind of demonstrate to the world at large.
It's important.
But look, I mean, we can definitely laugh and we can sneer and we can jeer, and the British military is a pale shadow of what it was even 30 years ago. Never mind what it was in the mid 20th century. But still, out of Europe, and of course, when I say Europe, I don't mean the European Union, I mean the continent as a whole, but I mean, Britain does have the biggest and most powerful military. France?
Also, I'm just going to say the Royal Engineers are quite good. They're good at doing stuff. They're good at making and building stuff. And if you need a wall building or a bridge building, the Royal Engineers are kind of...
Okay, wait, sorry, you guys are missing my point, though.
What's the point?
Before they are engineers, they are soldiers. So
Yeah.
Poland is inviting soldiers, military forces from a country outside of the EU into Poland to help build a wall on the Belarusian border. Politically, Dr. Mike, how is this possible? How are EU allies standing by and watching this happen?
Let's put it this way. They want shit done, so...
They want it done, so call the British. They'll do it.
I don't want your help. No, Britain, go away. We don't need your help. Like, they want help.
Can you imagine no, okay. So
Like, call in the EU, exactly.
We've been doing one. It's in
Passport, whatever. Like, no, actually, we want to have a border, so we're going to call the guys that have an island. They probably have a little more experience than,
Hey, wait, why don't we get the guys who built the Maginot Line? Because that really... Oh, no.
And strangely, we don't hear a lot of protests coming from the rest of the EU. Nobody's complaining about this.
Actually, I pointed this out. It's like, no, it's actually, these guys probably know what they're talking about.
And generally, I think it's because this is a very serious political situation. I know it's Christmas, guys. Sorry, listeners. It's a really serious political situation going on right now.
A mess.
It's a big, big mess. And the fact that the UK are sending troops and Europe are saying nothing, well, there's political reasons for that. No one wants to rock any boats, and people want to do some power plays. That's all I'm saying.
And the UK is on the far end of this. It's
the least threatened by...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the first ones to actually do something about it.
But
Well,
why
look,
doesn't-
actually, I mean, if we can kind of go into this sidebar just briefly on this whole situation with kind of Belarus and Putin and the alleged build-up of forces on the border with Ukraine and that this aggravation happening at the Belarusian-Polish border. Because what seems to be very troubling about this is actually, as much as anything, it's a question of interpretation, because Putin has come out and said what you can definitely read as being a very, very reasonable interpretation of things, which is that he is very alarmed. He is not interested in invading Ukraine, but he's very alarmed about these attempts to incorporate Ukraine into NATO, to possibly incorporate it into the European Union, when it will therefore be a threat right on his doorstep. Now, this is, agree with that or not, it is nevertheless a valid point. And then on the other hand, you have a lot of commentary in the Western or in the European and American media saying, like 90,000, 100,000, 150,000 Russian troops massing on the Ukrainian border, these exercises going on. This clearly looks like, he wants to drive into Ukraine and complete what he started with the annexation of Crimea. And both of these viewpoints are very, very easy to rationalize, to accept and understand. And the question is, which, if either of them is correct?
And hyperbole aside from both sides, what Putin has said is that he will withdraw from sending troops to the Ukrainian border if Poland withdraw from NATO.
Has he actually said
Good luck
that?
with that.
Because my understanding was that... No. I think... okay, you may have more up-to-date...
But that's what he
information than I
wants
do.
anyway. That's what he wants.
But
for
I
sure.
thought that what he was saying was that if Ukraine gives a definitive statement that they will not join or attempt to join NATO, then
he will withdraw.
And that, for me, seems fine. But to this thing
I
about...
believe there was something about Poland.
Well,
but
I know we need
I
that...
stand back.
Because
there's
that's...
Let me just do one more thing on this before we move on.
That's threatening a sovereign nation.
Before we move on,
Yes.
Dr. Mike, this is for you. This is breaking story, again, same topic, but breaking yesterday as we record this. We learned that strangely, bizarrely almost, a Polish soldier actually defected to Belarus. It's like he went the wrong way. Details kind of still hard to come by. Again, this happened just yesterday. What can you tell us about this?
At the point of us recording this episode, the details are very foggy. It's like Was he captured and he's being forced to say what he's saying? Did he defect, which seems, obscene, unimaginable as well?
Well, sorry, the story right now is he defected in protest at this whole Polish response and behavior on the border.
And what we do know is that his superiors have been fired.
Yeah, and his
which
bosses
is
got
also
fired, yes.
kind of interesting.
Big deal. High-ranking officers. So this is just weird.
It's weird,
Yeah.
but you have recordings or information of him saying the Belarusians have been very good to me. The way Poland has been treating the immigrants is horrible. It just reminds me of
Blink if we can help you. Blink if you're in distress.
exactly. It's I feel like we should be looking at his subtle hand signals to see what happens. I'm not sure. Maybe he was forced. Maybe he wasn't. But at this point, this is literally in the last 96 hours. So,
But it's not a major diplomatic thing, but it is kind of an interesting incident right now.
But actually, the real kind of eyebrow raiser, as you said, is the fact that the Minister for Defence or the top kind of defence guy has kind of summarily dismissed the entire command structure of where. Yeah, I mean, we're talking very senior army officers here, so there's clearly something up.
Something's going on, but what is it? That's the
don't know.
question.
Looking forward to finding out.
Yeah.
Well,
Comment and let us know what's going on.
let's
Which
transition.
we will probably find out about between recording this and when we put it up
for
on the
sure, it
website.
always happens.
So
that way.
we will look
News
like
always
complete
comes out
fools.
on a Monday or Tuesday.
As always.
Yes. Let's transition to a couple of things on the lighter
Let's transition.
side. Let's transition before we close things down here. Here's something that always gets mentioned at this time of the year. December is when the government tells us which baby names were a hit in the over the course of the calendar year. Not much has changed this year. This is for Krakow. For here in the city. Any guesses, by the way? I think maybe you saw the link I shared already.
I was very disappointed to see that Gabriella was not on the list and that John or Jan.
Jan is a great name. Gabby is just let's be
It's
honest.
old school, isn't it?
Let's be
It's like
honest.
Ethel,
Nobody likes Gabby.
Like Ethel or Gertrude or something.
Sophia, number one for girls, and as Gabby just said, Jan, the equivalent of John, number one for boys.
wait, is Zofia in English Sophia or?
I would say Sophia.
Yeah, Sophia or Sophie, actually, is another.
Sophie.
Which is a lovely name.
Rounding out the list for girls was Hanya, Yulia, Emilia, Zuzana, Alicia, and Laura. That's an interesting entry for me. I like that.
And do you know what I found interesting about the male names? Leon. Leon was on the list.
Let me give the rest of the male names here. Again, Jan, number one. Second place is interesting, Franciszek or Franek. Now, this is anecdotal, I know, but I have 2 or 3 friends that have all had sons in the last couple of years name their kids Franek. Franek is a big, I think in preschool, a couple of years from now, half the boys are going to be named Franek. It's just one of those.
It's because they'll all be going to Hollywood.
Faddest. Remember, Dr. Mike, you might recall about 10 years ago, every boy was named Kuba. Like literally every boy was named Kuba, and now it's Franciszek. Anyway, more top 10 from the boys. Alexander, which my son is named Alexander. I like that name. Jakub or Kuba.
Hey, it's a good name.
Anthony, Philip, Simon or Shimon, Mikołaj, Adam, and as Gabby mentioned, Leon. Leon is a little bit surprising for me as well. You know?
So it's very Anglo-Saxon. I'm thinking like Liam Neeson,
Kings of Leon.
Leon.
Amazing film, Leon.
Leon.
I'm very happy to see Mikołaj on there. I think it's a very undernamed
Polish
name.
version of Nicholas, if you don't know.
Yeah, and I think Nicholas is a great name, generally. Nicholas,
Let me get your take on this,
Christmas,
Gabby.
guys, come on.
As
More Mikołaj, please.
a lady, let's get your take on this. Now, we've talked about this before. When you have a baby here in Poland, if you have like a cross-cultural, like a culturally mixed family, you try to get a name that works in both worlds, right? Now, with girls in Poland, I think it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. You have a lot of choices. But with boys, it can be tough. What do you think of traditional Polish boys' names?
Zdzisław.
I actually quite like them because traditional Hungarian names as well are a bit unusual.
Oh, yeah?
And I like a
Zoltan.
Hungarian. My brother's middle name is Zoltan.
Love Zoltan.
Apparently it's from the...
You see how she switched that? It was like a question about Polish
know.
names. Straight onto
She
Hungarian.
pivoted on me.
But
Yes, she
Zoltan
did.
is apparently a derivative of Sultan, which who does not want to call their child Sultan?
Badass.
The Zoltans of Swing.
Sultan, eat your food.
Isn't Elvis a Hungarian name as well? I've heard that associated with Elvis. No? Okay, sorry.
No,
I'm wrong.
I was kind of
Maybe.
amused by the fact that Clovis is like an ancient French name. And I was thinking like, hey, yeah, you get in there now, Clovis.
Dr. Mike,
I think Bogusław is a great
let
name.
me throw this at you.
There's a lot of great. Can we talk about great Polish names? Bogusław is a great name.
I'm sorry, no, it sounds like something you clean your throat.
I don't know. The whole
It's got God in it.
the whole Slav family is a little bit outdated, I think.
It's outdated, but it's great.
Stanislav, yeah.
Niels Bohr, he was a Great Dane.
Well, the Slav is a reference to the history.
Yeah, but I think like in English we have names like Theodore and Frederick. You know, your grandfather's name.
What's wrong with Theodore?
Sometimes,
Theodore is a great
sometimes
name.
they make a comeback, and sometimes they kind of. How many? Oh, here's one. Here's a good one for you.
Amadeus.
How many kids do you know? How many people under the age of 40 are named Roger?
Roger.
Yeah, Roger.
Uncle Roger.
Yeah, everybody has an Uncle Roger, maybe, but there are certain names that just fade away. I don't know. They just don't work
They
for
come back
a younger
You're
generation.
talking about like Theodore.
Like Adolf.
That one's a special case.
For Theodore, for a while, I thought Theodore in Polish would be Ted. Because I had a friend of mine who was called,
Tadeusz. Yeah.
Tadeusz. And I thought Tadeusz was Theodore Ted. It turns out Tadeusz is actually Thaddeus.
Oh, of course.
What? That's Greek names are great.
Exactly. So if
We
you
need
have,
more Greek names.
If you have a Polish friend called Tadeusz, you shouldn't be calling him Ted. You should be calling him Thad.
Dad, which
It's like Chad.
I'm not a big fan of that.
Everyone loves Chad.
Oh, don't you remember like Alias Smith and Jones, that great Western series from the late 60s, 70s, kind of like.
Sorry, I wasn't born yet.
Yeah, no.
Was that Kid Curry and Hannibal? No. It was Thaddeus Smith and.
All right, Grandad.
I'm sorry, Thaddeus does sound cool, though. I have to say that.
It's a great name, isn't it?
One more.
But no, the Polish is like Theodore is Theophil, isn't it?
No, that's different.
I think
That's
we
different
should-
Well,
too.
it is, but I mean, it's etymologically the same as Theodore.
Is it?
Or Amadeus.
One more for Gabby because she's the woman here. She has a special
I
take.
think we need to bring back
It's just the other
Greek
side.
names.
I'm curious about with
Odysseus.
in terms of like variety.
Agamemnon.
I think in Poland there are.
There's
If
a
you
Trojan.
can make a list of 10 women's names, and roughly 70-80% of all the women in the country have one of those names.
In Poland?
Right? Yeah, Monica, Agnieszka,
Katarzyna.
Anya, Kasia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, Agnieszka.
And if you extend that list to 15 names, that's probably 95% of all women. Is that a good thing because it's cultural continuity and there's identity, or is it limiting and stifling somehow?
Oh, is
What
it
do you think?
important? Is it important? I don't care.
I don't know. I'm just asking you what you
I'll say
think.
as a guy, I think it's a great thing. You show up at a bar, you're drunk, and you're like, Agnieszka? Yay! You're probably right.
Well, actually, I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, or Gabby also, but like amongst
Me also.
amongst Polish girls of my acquaintance, they all refer to each other by their surnames. It sounds like something out of like public school boys do because they've all got the same Christian name. So it's just like routinely you call them by their surname.
What I would like to say is that it's actually quite nice to have a name that fits into the culture because I'm a Gabriella.
Zoltan.
I'm Zoltan. That was my brother's middle name. His name is Nicholas Mikołaj, which is on
What do
the
you
list.
mean was his brother's?
Well, he is Mikołaj, but
he-
Nicholas, he is.
Oh, he's not
Nicholas.
dead or anything?
No, he's not dead.
Because you said was.
Yeah, I know.
All
He
right.
hasn't like removed his middle name.
It's the Christmas spirit. Let's call it like that.
All right, fine.
Anyway.
Well, definitely a spirit right now, but okay. What was the question?
So, there was no question.
Oh.
There was a point.
Is there an answer?
There is an answer. Am I allowed to finish the answer?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So the answer and the point is that when I was growing up in the UK, my name is still Gabriella or Gabby, which at the time was a very unusual name in the UK. No one could spell it. No one knew where it came from. No one knew what it was. You were kind of an
I
outsider.
find that hard to believe. What are you talking about?
I know you find it hard to believe, but it's the truth.
What? You're lying.
I'm not
straight up lie.
I'm straight up not lying.
Trying to get attention
I'm
right now.
straight up not lying. Like people were like, "Okay, Gabriella, it's kind of an old-fashioned name. And I went by Gabby. So how do you spell Gabby? Is it Gabby? Is it
So does this come from the Hungarian part of your
It's the
background?
Hungarian. Yeah, my grandmother was Gabriella as well. Gabriella. My grandmother.
Isn't that
was Gabriella.
Isn't that like a Spanish name too? Maybe
It's
Gabriella?
Italian. With two
Italian
Ls.
as well.
With two L's, not one L.
But somehow the ignorant people of England had never heard this name. Are you?
And of
Not
course,
what-
there was the famous singer
High School
Nick
Musical.
Drake, whose sister Gabrielle Drake was a famous
But
actress.
that's Gabrielle, and people mistook me for Gabrielle. So there was a difference there.
In your face, Josh.
Gabriella came in High School Musical, and then suddenly everyone was called Gabriella. But I was too old by then.
I've been completely punished there.
People did not know. People did not know how to spell my name, how to say my name, what is even this name. Honestly, it was really bad. I was 5 years old. I was like, how do you not know how to spell my name on a Christmas card? It's literally on the register. The teachers would get it wrong. And I came to Poland, and suddenly everyone was like, yeah, Gabriella, that's a totally normal name. You totally fit in here.
How many L's? How many L's in your version? Yeah, you don't find that in the Polish version.
Don't.
Is the Q silent? I'm just messing with you.
Okay, so next.
Anyway.
All right, yeah, anyway.
In answer to your
Wrap it
question
up.
in a long-winded...
Like a Christmas present.
To your question in a long-winded way, it's actually quite nice...
Put it in a fancy bag.
Okay. It's quite nice to fit into the cultural hegemony sometimes.
And not be a freak named Gabriella in England, for example.
Exactly.
Like oh, my God. How do we get here? One more thing. I got to mention this.
Yeah.
Story of the day. Story of the day. Can't talk. Let me go back to the tab I just had open. What happened? Oh, yeah. The city told us this week that of the 46 public toilets that they operate. What? Yeah, 46. 25 serviced. 25 are serviced. 21 are self-service. I don't know what does that mean?
Service.
What does that mean in this context?
What are you going to hold it for?
I don't know.
I get arrested.
Let me back up. Before we go deeper on this, so to speak, let me back up. Gabby, when was the last time you used a public toilet? I know I
would rather pee in a bush.
Sounds like a pervy question, I know, but I got to ask.
I actually think there's more privacy in a bush.
Josh, Dr. Mike, last time you used a public toilet,
you have to pay, don't you?
Like a city-run public toilet.
I mean, I'm figuring if I want to pay to pee, I might as well go into a bar and pay for a beer and pee for free and have a great beer to enjoy either side of
public toilet. Anybody?
No.
When was the last time?
Long time.
Actually, at the train station here in Krakow.
Oh, guilty secret coming out now.
You can pee there.
Can you?
Yes, you can.
For free?
No, you can't.
No. Well, since Gabby mentioned, let me go ahead and finish the story, which I should have done already. So again, 25 serviced, 21 self-service, whatever that means. The city says that.
Rub it out.
The city says that right now, in 12 service toilets and 19 self-service, they've introduced contactless payments.
I would hope so.
That's our main point here. So you can just tap your credit card. You can crap and tap and just walk out.
Actually, it's the other way around. Tap and crap.
Is it tap first? Yeah, I guess it is tap and crap.
I think it should be the other way around. Crap first, then tap.
So I guess
not payments on delivery.
What is this? A way to to fire these old ladies that usually run these things and make it completely automated and self-service?
Job anyway.
Number one, I love the old ladies. Number two, the city.
Number two, yeah.
Number two,
which is what costs.
I think we all have an investment in public toilets. It's a necessary thing. Let's.
But nobody can remember the last time they used one. How necessary is it if we never use them?
If you didn't have to pay, then everyone would use them.
But if you didn't pay, they'd be even worse than they already are.
Okay, but I think, I may reconsider my whole approach to public toilets if contactless payment becomes introduced. Because often the absolute pain in the bladder or kidneys or wherever or rectum is the fact that you don't have...
Yeah, we got it before you went that far, but okay.
I know, but I had to because it's Christmas.
You have a pain in the rectum.
Merry Christmas.
Well, no,
consider a doctor.
One that's building.
Rectum. Damn near killed him.
No, if you've got a pain in your rectum before you pay.
All right, anyway, enough rectum. Let him talk.
You need the facilities. You don't have change in your pocket. And we know that change is a major issue.
It's like a Zwadi, right? 80 groszy. How much does it cost?
Oh, I have no idea.
There's one not far from where we are now. There's one right behind Wawel. That's the first one that comes to mind. I know there's one on Plac Bohaterów Getta in the underground walkway there that takes you under this road. 40. I'd be hard pressed to name 46. There's 46 in the city.
There's a couple of them around Planty at least, isn't there?
Yeah, I guess there's one.
Trees.
There's one over there by Plac Szczepański, I think. But 46, where all over the city. I don't know where they are. I couldn't name more than 5 if I had to.
But I mean, look. To be fair to Poland, I've had the misfortune of going by car through Germany, and every single motorway service area that you stop at requires a coin to get you into the toilet facility.
To the stall.
Not understand that.
And how much toilet paper did they give you for that one coin that you put across their palm with? it a square or 2 squares?
Well, it's usually like just a machine and a little turnstile.
This is something whenever
Because I remember them giving you, like, literally handing you the toilet paper. Like, you've paid your money. Here are your 2 squares of paper.
Wow.
Now go and enjoy yourself.
There is a reason why we bombed Dresden to.
And I think you
had to go that far.
hard enough.
Is Dresden the euphemism for the toilet itself?
Yeah. Every time I came to Europe, I could not understand the concept of paying for a quote-unquote public toilet.
You're thinking of Royal Dalton, which is a different kind of China.
Coming from Australia, coming from the US, how could I pay for this? And it sucks as well.
Isn't this a European norm, or is this a continental thing, or what?
It's a continental thing, basically.
It's definitely a continental thing.
I mean,
I have been in public lavatories in the southern states of the United States, and I will never do that again.
Exactly, but the thing is,
More times than I've been, I think. We just go on the street, that's what we do.
the thing is, when you go to, if you're in Europe and you're paying, you would at least expect quality. Let's put it that way. If I have
Cleanliness, let's say.
reach around.
Quality is up to you.
I would accept quality, but if I was desperate enough, quite frankly, quality goes out the window.
And I'll be honest, most places here in Krakow, I remember when I first came to Poland, you go to a bar, to a restaurant, it's 3 a.m, you're partying all night, and there's still like an old lady by the door to the toilet, like asking for his zloty. It's like, really, I've spent like 50 zloty drinks here. I paid to leave my coat here, and I still have to...
Florianska, isn't it?
That's because it was in the center of town, and otherwise it would become a de facto public toilet, which is what McDonald's used to be. Remember when the McDonald's on Shevska started asking for at least a receipt?
Yeah.
I don't know how they monitored that.
I understood that.
Asking for a receipt to use their toilet?
If you're in a place where,
sure.
Random people could walk in, I understood that. I didn't like it, but I understood the sentiment. But the truth is...
All right, sorry, Doctor. Gabby's about to wet herself here, I think, before... Go ahead.
But just before we go, I think Poland maybe need to start introducing the concept of the bog troll.
The bog troll.
The bog troll. So the bog troll is the person in the toilet who allows and disallows the people in. You pay your money to the bog troll, but then...
He's a bouncer for the toilet.
He's a bouncer for the toilet, but you also have...
Bog bouncer.
You also have a concoction of perfumes and deodorants that you can use.
Ooh, classy.
Classy. While you're in there. So you do your business, you come out, you spray yourself a little bit.
What is this, the Four Seasons? Or the train station bathroom?
I like that, to be honest.
True story, my very first visit ever to Krakow, 1992, got off a train from somewhere in Czechoslovakia. I have no idea where, I can't remember. Anyway, got off the train here, had to, take care of a few things, went to the bathroom at the train station here. It's no longer there, by the way, the bathroom, not the train station. Although the train station.
Toilet?
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Do you mean toilet or bathroom?
The toilet. And I asked the woman how much it cost, and she said it depended on what I was going to do. I'll never forget that for as long as I live. It depended on what I was going to do.
Quite right, too. Quite right.
So a different menu, price system, let's say, for what went on behind those walls.
Anyway, I really need to pee.
Well, there's a place just across the street behind Vavel. You can use your contactless card, apparently.
Yeah, you don't even need change.
Right. So that's going to do it for the news.
Right there.
Later this week, we'll put up our episode about Christmas in Poland. We've got a Christmas quiz. You're going to find out a lot about
it's hilarious.
Our own preferences when it comes to Christmas music and wrapping presents and fake and real trees and things like that. So keep an eye out for that. This is our last news of 2021. We're going to take a bit of a break before we come back in the first week of January. So thank you, everybody, for listening this year. We appreciate it very much. Check out all of our back episodes at KrakCast.pl. And Gabby has a final word.
Yeah, I do. Josh, do you know what I want for Christmas? All I want for Christmas
is me. Oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice?
Last Christmas.
What?